All right, Dave, so much happening this political cycle. So I want to ask you if Kamala Harris is marketing herself as this stability and bipartisanship and preserving institutional norms, why is she now wanting to blow up the filibuster?
Well, let's take a little history here first. I don't think I can recall an administration going back a few that hasn't wanted to blow up the filibuster. And I don't give Mitch McConnell credit for a lot. I don't think anyone has broken more in Washington than Mitch McConnell, including the Supreme Court nomination process, which was about one of the few bipartisan things left. But to his credit, he preserved it because Trump wanted to blow it up. And then Biden also, or at least some of his people in his administration, wanted to get rid of it. But Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema were the two senators that resisted it. And now Kamala Harris is talking about it. As I've said before, I think the compromise would be that the filibuster should be reduced to 55 votes. Because let's go back with a little history. And remember, in the 70s, it was actually 67 votes, and they reduced it to 60. But I think getting 10% above majority would be fair. But my opinion doesn't matter much in today's the halls of today's chamber. I should also point out that the chances are very high that Republicans are going to control the chamber next year. So I question the vice president's strategy saying that you want to blow something up, because let's face it, Mitch McConnell is not going to be majority leader starting January. And right now, the Senate's already 50-50 because Joe Manchin isn't running again, right? So the Democrats have to run every single Senate seat, and then Harris has to win for them to retain control of the chamber. Plus, on top of that, there are 7 Senate seats in states that Trump won in 2016 or 2020 that the Democrats have to defend. There are 0 seats that Biden won in 2016, or that Clinton won in 2016 or Biden won in 2020, that the Republicans have to control. So it's kind of poor strategy to talk about something where most likely the other side will have the chance to do it. But having said that, I think it's just rhetoric. I don't put too much into it. I think the filibuster should be modified, as I said, and reformed, but I don't think it should be eliminated because the founding fathers did intend for the Senate to be the cooling chamber. And I think it has done that. Now, one can argue it's gotten too partisan and it's gotten too gridlocked, but I think overall that there should be some break. It should not be a simple majority. What say you?
Dave, I think you bring up some really good points. I think I might be in full agreement with you on this. and you taught me something interesting about the 70s, about 67. I did not know that was the threshold back then. So thanks for the history lesson. But yeah, I agree with you that Kamala and karma might want to look out for that because it could come back to bite her if you do blow it up. But ultimately, I do agree with you that right now, the reason she's doing this is because she wants to put as much focus as she can on abortion. And that's really why she's calling for this filibuster, is because she wants to make this an abortion election, because that's pretty much the only trick that this pony has. Everything else is really rough for her, from the economy to immigration, even to education and the border. And so yeah, I think if I was her and that was the only card I had, then I might be doing the same thing. But yeah, and you're right that the electoral math here does not favor her from the Senate side. And I think, unfortunately, you're right. Overall, our culture is so short term. We're driven by the next news cycle. And, what about other presidents after her and other senators or Senate chambers, compiled after her, and the legacy and the children? So that's it's important to keep that in mind. So I think it's a bad idea from her, but I think it's her way of trying to get out the vote.
Well, absolutely. And I think that I think abortion obviously is their strongest suit. And I'm really curious to see, and this is something where this election will be very indicative of how resonant an issue that still is. Because when you think about it, here's a stat for you. There have been 27 elections in the swing states since Dobbs. Democrats have won 23 of them. Okay, and 2 of their losses were Brian Kemp's election and re-election in Georgia. So they have a pretty good track record. But the big question is, how will the momentum continue into 2024? And that's what we don't know. Yes, I think it will continue to motivate some women. And I think obviously it'll continue to exacerbate the gender gap. But my advice to the vice president is focus on getting more of the male vote. You already have the female vote. And I think it's important to rally the base. Don't get me wrong. I think it's important because abortion is an issue. But I would also say that the Senate, the Supreme Court, even in the state of disrepute that it is, I think would still have the backbone to strike down any national ban on abortion if Trump signed that into law, if he wins, because it should be with the states. And they would also strike down any nationwide codifying because it should be a states' rights issue. And so I think a lot of this is just talk. I don't think it's going to affect what happens much in terms of the final outcome.